Hi, Umar, you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you for calling me, by the way. I appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. I heard from some of the patient reps and from I think a Dr. Weindorf that you had some questions about the autopsy on your father.
Yes,
Sure.
we have a lot of questions, but I just wanted to know basically. I wanted to hear from you first, and then I wanted to talk to you basically.
Sure. Oh, so you mean like what the findings were
Right.
from the autopsy?
What
Yeah.
you've
So
seen.
pretty much what I found was nothing like really no acute like smoking gun that I could find as far as any immediate cause of death. But what I did find was that he had a pretty enlarged heart, about 530 grams, which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty large. He had kind of granular kidneys, which is something that we commonly see in hypertension or high blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And he had some calcifications of his aorta, which is kind of the big blood vessel that runs through the middle of the body. He also had changes compatible with his chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which is the lung disease with a lot of congestion, kind of heavy lungs too, so they were kind of fluid filled and heavy. And then as far as I know there was this concern about Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a pretty rare thing, but sounded like he sort of clinically had that. He was, as you probably know, he was kind of feeling weak and numb, falling a lot, and that sort of thing. So we're doing some extra studies as far as the neurology goes, where we'll look at the brain very much more in depth. Also look at some nerve tissue and that sort of thing, and see if we can actually definitively diagnose that. But as for the cause of death, I believe it's probably most likely related to a cardiac arrhythmia, and that's probably due to either complications of the chronic alcoholism, which can cause the heart to be enlarged like that,
Mm-hmm.
or also possibly due to the Guillain-Barré. So it's kind of a tough call between those two. But we were able to rule out a bunch of other things, including pulmonary emboli, like clots in the lungs, which sometimes people can get. Injuries, anything like that, there was no sign of any of that. So I just guess we're kind of between those two things. But that will take a little bit of time just till we examine the brain very closely, the nerves, probably get a neuropathologist to look at this sort of stuff. Those are specialists who really know how to interpret the Guillain-Barré syndrome pathology if it's there.
But
I
they
got
said
you.
he didn't have it because
But
of the
what was
spinal tap. It
concerning
came out
was is that
negative.
they confirmed that he did not have that syndrome because they did a spinal tap, and
But
the
they want to
doctors
complete other
confirmed.
I'm having
direction.
trouble hearing you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. It was proven that he didn't have that Beret syndrome because they did a spinal tap on him and it came back normal, which they said okay, he doesn't have this condition, and then they had a neurologist look at him, and then with the findings of the doctor, they said that he didn't have that syndrome at all. That it was he didn't have it, and that we have to go in a totally different direction now. So they were confident in the emergency room. The doctors were confident that he didn't have that. So they completely overlooked it because they confirmed that he didn't have it.
Oh,
So,
that's interesting. That's not what I have from the notes.
well,
The EMG,
uh huh,
the muscle study,
uh huh.
sounds actually like it is probably compatible with that.
No
You're right
problem.
about the
I
spinal
gotcha.
tap. That sounds like it was probably not. But there's lots of multiple factors that go into that diagnosis.
No, of course, but I have paperwork already showing that it was negative and that he doesn't have that syndrome. So I actually have physical paperwork from Mama's hospital stating that he was cleared of that syndrome. So you have something else that you have in front of you, but I have the actual paperwork that was finalized for his chart. So that's inconclusive right there with that finding.
Okay.
So that's a big concern to
And the
us, the
thing on the
family.
head, we know
And
we
the
saw
thing
it.
on the head that I know you were aware of, we saw a bruise on his face and we saw a swollen bump on his face. So we know what we saw. My sister, my brother-in-law,
Physically saw it,
myself,
and he
we
was
saw it
wrapped.
physically. Well, we saw it after we unwrapped his head because we were told that his head was wrapped because when you die, things come out of you, which is true, but it's not true to that extent because my grandfather died in the house. He was in there for seven
Never saw
hours after he
oozing.
died. No oozing or nothing ever came out of his ears, and he actually died from a heart attack and a stroke, a combination of that. And the same thing with my uncle who died from throat cancer, who was actually in the house for 36 hours before the funeral home came to get him because he was on hospice, and nothing ever came out of him. So that was a race for alarm right there, which is why we said, you know what, we're gonna unwrap the body and we're gonna see what's there. And we unwrapped his head and we saw a bruise from his ear to his cheekbone, and his
And a
cheekbone
lump.
was swollen. A big lump was there.
Was it what you saw on the right side of his face?
Yes.
Yeah, you know what? He had lividity on the right side of his face.
But that won't get a lump.
From his forehead all the way down through his chin, through his neck. That whole right side of his head was purple, essentially.
But what about
But
the
that's not a
lump?
bruise. That's lividity. That's what happens when the blood settles.
But a lividity wouldn't cause a bump, right?
Well, I did some.
No, yeah, but there was no bump. We took a good look, and there's no contusion or anything like that. But
So
he did
he-
have lividity. He had pretty marked right-sided lividity,
So
which is that kind of
did
pooling
he
of the blood
die
that
on
happens
his
after
side?
somebody dies.
So let me ask you this: did he die on his side or did he die flat?
I have no idea. We can't tell that. But what happens is after the death, the blood will start to pool. So if he dies, even if he's flat on his back, if his head lays over to the right side, it will pool that way. So it's more dependent on his position after death.
Well,
I-
if they did CPR, he would have been lying flat on his back.
Right. So if they were doing CPR, he would have been lying flat on his back because when we saw him, his head was completely tilted to the right.
And tell him
Oh yeah,
the
that
head
makes
was
sense.
wrapped.
Yeah,
Why?
because what happens is after you die, the blood will start to pool. When you're alive, it doesn't. It happens over hours after you die. So if you're on your right side after death, in those hours after death, the blood starts to pool. So
He shouldn't have been. He should have been on his flat
the
on
right
his
side
back.
of his face will be purple and
Right.
have
But
that
if he
lividity
died
more
with this,
pronounced because he's
if he
passed
like,
away.
Right.
so
I
he
gotcha.
should've
But
been-
here's
he
the
was
thing, though: if
laying
he
flat.
died, if he was laying flat when even if he had died, say 45 minutes before they found him, they were able to lay him flat and
The blood
do
shouldn't have
CPR. The
pooled
blood
here.
shouldn't have pooled to his face like that.
Right. It should.
Right, correct. I'm sure it didn't start then. It's a post-mortem thing, lividity. So it only happens after you're dead, after you have no circulation.
We know
moving
that.
blood.
Right, I know that
Right,
already.
which is telling us that he was not lying
But what's
flat.
telling me is that he wasn't lying
His
flat.
head was not flat.
His head was not flat.
And why was it wrapped?
After he passed away.
Yeah, why was it
Right,
wrapped?
why was it
his head
wrapped? Why was his head
Why
wrapped?
was it not flat?
Why was his head
No,
wrapped?
his head, no, in the morgue.
His head was tilted sideways. Why was his head tilted sideways, and why was he wrapped like that?
He was wrapped like
Well,
a
I mean, I'm
mummy.
sure it probably just kind of moved to the side. I'm not exactly sure. I think no matter what, people aren't usually exactly straight facing forward. Their head kind of rolls to one side or the other.
Well, Doc, I'm his wife.
Yes.
My husband's face was definitely, when they took him out of when they opened the drawer, his head was
Yeah.
tilted to the right, and he was wrapped up like a mummy. All we saw was 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth.
Yes.
You
But,
know,
the
so
wrap-
I don't understand why did they wrap him?
I believe, I'm not sure. You'd have to talk to the staff, but everybody gets wrapped like that. It's usually just to prevent the flow of fluids to kind of come out from the nose and the mouth. There's something called purge that happens after somebody passes away.
Yes.
So a lot of times they'll wrap the openings, like the mouth and the nose, so that there's none of that fluid kind of runs out.
But that's what I'm saying. They didn't wrap his nose and his mouth. They wrapped around his ears and around his skull.
Yeah, again, that's something to take up with the staff on the floors. We don't really do that, but I know that just from doing the autopsies here, that all of the bodies are wrapped like that.
Right.
They
Well,
wrap like their forehead sometimes and do that.
yeah. The
I think
concern
it's
that.
part of the preparation of the body to go to the funeral home and all that.
Okay, but the concern that we had was, I know my daughter, my son-in-law definitely saw a bump on the side of the temple on the cheek. And they're like, he's got a bump there. So we thought he possibly fell out of the bed and and him banged his head.
I see, yeah. No, I didn't see any evidence of any injury on his face or anything like that, and he certainly had no intracranial injury, meaning nothing going on inside of his head, like his brain or anything like that.
Okay, so now I know when you pass away that the lividity starts, but what I'm saying is for him to have half his head, whoever did it tilted his head. I know when you die, you're supposed to be in supine position. With your head, with your head straight up. When we saw him, he had his head tilted to the right.
Right.
So
And this was 5 hours after
this was
death.
5 hours after death. So
Right. I'm not sure what the real concern there is. I mean, sometimes the head will just roll to the side.
Even when you're dead, your head. So your head will just roll even if you're dead.
Yes.
Okay.
You get moved around a little bit as the gurney's rolled into the morgue and everything like that. It's
Oh, I see.
body's still
I
flat.
understand. Okay, so can I just ask you one more question?
Yes.
If you think he died from a very enlarged heart, I mean, we know the underlying cause was probably the alcoholism,
Correct.
but if he died from a very enlarged heart and he had arrhythmia and whatnot, we were told he should not have been put on the medicine floor with no monitoring.
Again, I don't know much about that sort of thing. That's something to take up with the clinical team.
Right.
Everybody who has an enlarged heart of that size can have a cardiac arrhythmia at any time.
Right, but he also had
An EKG done.
He had a CAT scan done. He had an EKG done. He had a chest X-ray done, and you should be able to see an enlarged heart in any one of those exams. And they put him down for low risk of alcohol withdrawal.
Right. Well,
So something's not right
related
here.
to withdrawal. It's more of just a chronic change that happens in the heart.
Right, now they didn't. Now in the 2 days that he was there, everything was fine. He went upstairs and he died in 3.5 hours. He was alive in the ER because he was on monitors. Now what I'm trying to say is if they would have put him on a monitor,
I
then
understand. Again, I'm not on the treatment side of things.
right, I
If you have
understand.
questions about how he was treated and all that, you should speak to the clinical team.
The clinical team.
Yeah,
Okay.
They're the ones who handle that. We're the pathology. We just handle the post-mortem, I guess.
Okay, so now if we have the right to request after your test the brain back?
Yes, of course.
How long will it take to get that back?
We will take sections and things like that and kind of look at it under the microscope. It takes about 2 weeks for the brain tissue to fix in the formalin
Okay.
until we can examine it. And then usually it's like another couple weeks after that until we do stains and all that sort of thing.
Okay.
So, if we can, again, this is, we did this autopsy at your request. So, you can kind of, do what you want. But for us to do the full exam on the brain,
Right.
it would take probably on the order of a few weeks to a month or so.
Okay.
What about the spinal cord?
Yeah, they're gonna do tests on the
Yeah,
spinal
no,
cord.
we have that as well too. It's
Yeah.
mixing in the same solution so that it firms up so we can then section it and take a close look at it under the microscope.
I got you.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Tom. Thank you very, very
Thank you
much.
so much,
We
Doctor.
appreciate
We
you
really-
I
taking
hope
the
that
time
answers your
out.
questions. I know it's a difficult time and everything too, but hopefully we can find out the real specifics about this.
Let me ask you one question because I know you would have been the guy to change this because you were the person that did the autopsy. You changed his cause of death to possible Guillain-Barré syndrome, which was proven that it was negative, and you changed it to chronic alcoholism. Why would you change it to that if you were concerned of the heart? The alcohol.
The heart changes. The reason that I believe he has the heart change is because of the chronic alcoholism.
Yes.
Chronic alcoholism has been shown to enlarge the heart and cause changes of high blood pressure.
Okay.
Because of it being drinking all day. Okay,
Right,
I got
but
you.
no one picked
Yeah,
up on
But-
it.
but
considering that he
can-
didn't have like a history of high blood pressure
No,
before,
he
all that
didn't.
sort of thing.
I got
It's
you.
probably related to the alcoholism. So
No.
yeah, I put that as the primary cause. Now, if something comes up and we need to change the cause of death, we have to issue a death certificate initially, just to be able to release the body and everything too.
Right.
So
Change the
based on the
test,
findings
the
so
test.
far, that's what I believe is the primary cause.
Okay.
Again, I did put possible Guillain-Barré syndrome because, like you said, it's not a definitive, firm diagnosis. Hopefully we can find something that might, prove or disprove that when we look at the brain and the spinal cord. But
Can he at
I
least
put that as a
agree that if they
contributing
thought he
factor,
had
too,
it,
because, it
even
might
though
have
the
affected,
CTAP came back
sometimes
negative, that he
Guillain-Barré
should have been monitored more
causes
closely?
I got you. Can I ask you this?
This is just his opinion.
If you guys were, this is just your opinion. If you see how you're concerned that it might have been the Guillain-Barré, you were the one who made the call to let me take the brain and let me go look into this further. Because you know how you were just telling me that, okay, you know, we did this test, we did this. They were still concerned, even though they kind of had a negative for that. Shouldn't he have been monitored more, because that's a rare syndrome, and that's, you know, that's a very, very serious syndrome. Like, you know, shouldn't you agree that he should have been monitored further?
Just his opinion.
Just your
Oh,
opinion.
I really can't comment
He
on that.
can't,
I have no
okay.
idea.
I got you.
I got you.
You
Okay.
gave me my answer though.
Yeah, he
Anyway, I
can't
appreciate
comment.
that.
Okay, we appreciate.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, doctor.
No problem.
We look forward to
Okay.
hearing from you as the weeks go by with the
Yes,
brain and
you'll
that.
call us with the definitive answers to the
What
brain.
I'll do is we'll go ahead and finalize the report and everything like that. And then if you want a copy of the report, you should speak to the medical records.
Okay. When will that be?
Should it be a month?
When will it be finalized so that I can get that?
Like in a month or so.
Usually takes about 60 business days.
Okay.
2 months. All right. Beautiful.
All right.
It's usually like about 2 months or so before the final report is done.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much for your help on everything, and thank you so much for taking care of my father. He would have appreciated it.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
You
too.
too.
Bye-bye.